Right, so hello everyone and welcome to today's EAUC webinar. This webinar is actually the final instalment of a four-part series with NUS and the Students Green Fund specifically. All of these can be viewed as recorded webinars on the EAUC website and also the Sustainability Exchange, and if you would like me to send those links to you, just get in touch with me after the webinar. The title of today's webinar is NUS Students Green Fund Driving Student Engagement, and it should last approximately an hour. It is under the Student Engagement Life Framework. Again, if you'd like any information about Life or the relaunch of Life, which has happened very recently and is now free to all EAUC members, then please do get in touch with me, or there's plenty of information on the website. Thank you for registering, and thanks also to today's speakers. So we have Emily from NUS, Adam and Michael from the University of Bradford, and Harry from Birmingham City University Students' Union. My name is Emma and I'm the Member Events and Communities Officer here at the EAUC. If you have any specific event, webinar or training requests, I will be happy to talk to you at any time. I also work with our community group, so as a member of the EAUC, I encourage you to join one of our communities of practice or regional groups. Again, more information about these and how you can join can be found in the member zone on our website. You may have previously attended or heard of exchange webinars. These are continuing, but due to their popularity, we have developed a new range of EAUC webinars, like the one you are attending today, which are specifically for EAUC members only and are an added benefit to your membership. They are more detailed with clear learning outcomes, expert speakers, and will allow for slightly more complex topics. These will all last between an hour and a half, depending on the topic, and shortly after any EAUC member-only webinar, you will receive a certificate of attendance to place on your personal development file as a record of the training. So there's just a little bit of housekeeping to go over now. I'm hoping that everyone can hear me well. If you have any issues at all hearing throughout today's webinar, if you could just drop me a message in the chat box, which you'll find on the bottom right-hand side of your screen. As I said just before I started the webinar, I have muted you all. This is just to avoid any background noise, but don't worry, because you will have the opportunity to be unmuted and ask any questions at the end of today's webinar. Hopefully most of you have working microphones as well. Don't worry if you don't. As I said, you'll still have the opportunity to ask any questions, and you can do so through the chat box, and I will read them aloud for you at the end of the webinar. This recorded webinar will be uploaded onto the EAUC website and the Sustainability Exchange later on today, and I will send you a link to all of these. Please feel free to share these with colleagues and fellow EAUC members, as they will be there forever as a resource. Once the webinar is finished, you'll be sent a short survey as well as your certificate of attendance. This is just for us to gain any feedback on today's webinar and also any specific topics or anything you have in mind for future events, webinars and training for EAUC members. So that's all from me for now. I will happily pass over to Emily from the NUS, who will introduce the speakers for today's webinar.
Thank you very much, Emma. Welcome, everybody. My name is Emily Thompson-Bell. I'm the Students Green Fund Programme Manager at the National Union of Students. When we were given the funding from HEFCE in April 2013 for sustainability projects, student engagement was at the heart of what we were trying to achieve through the Students Green Fund, rather than necessarily infrastructural changes, and in particular, engagement of harder to reach student groups. A large number of the student unions that we've been working with have reported that their projects have helped them to reach new audiences, and the activities appeal to students who want to develop new skills, who want to engage with other students socially, but not necessarily in an alcohol-based setting. And of course, climate change as well is a global issue which affects our students wherever in the world they've come from. Just a few examples. So Bristol has been targeting hard-to-reach communities through their volunteering team, involving international students in the Hall Liaison for Student Switch-Off and actually providing resources in their first language where possible. Newcastle have found that, again, international students are particularly keen to volunteer and take on coordination roles within their projects, and they reported that improving English was actually a key motivation, and that being involved in kind of active outdoor projects and activities was really useful in terms of improving English. UPlan, who have also been working across a range of areas with the university to integrate sustainability, have worked with their summer languages courses for international students and focused them around the theme of sustainability, so getting lots of summer school students involved in their projects. And Lancaster, just another example of postgraduates being really involved in the projects. They found their postgraduate students to be really involved, taking on project management roles, and in some instances as well, some paid employment roles. And this has been particularly useful for their project as an edible campus project, which is focused on food growing. And as many of you who are working on food growing projects know, the summer period can be a bit of an issue if there aren't keen staff or students around to take the lead during that time. So this has been fantastic for their project. They've had postgraduates available during the holidays, whereas many undergraduates have headed home at that point. In today's session, I'm joined by some of the Students Green Fund projects. Harry from BCU, Birmingham City University, Adam and Michael from Bradford's Cycling for All, and unfortunately Christina from Wigan and Lee College is unwell today, so I'm stepping in to give you a bit of an introduction to their project. Harry, Adam and Michael are all going to give you a bit of an introduction to the lessons they've learned about driving student engagement through their project, and specifically the lessons that they've learned about engaging harder to reach students who wouldn't otherwise have been engaged with their unions. I know as well, I always say that the Students Green Fund projects are by no means the only examples of good practice on this and on innovative ways of driving student engagement. So it would be lovely to open up this discussion at the end to hear from those present about what has and hasn't worked on your campuses. But now I'd like to hand over to Harry, who heads up the Birmingham City University's ECO project, to talk about their work on driving forward student engagement.
Hey everybody, so I'm Harry. I run Eco by BCUSU, which is a Student Green Fund project, and that's my logo, or our logo, and it's a sort of a 6-phase project. So we work on a grow element, which is all about urban gardening, and we keep bees and we grow food within Birmingham. E-collect, which is about collecting clothes and items that would otherwise go to landfill or otherwise be wasted. We've got a create section, which is all about upcycling and reusing these items. We've got a learn element, which is all about creating awareness about green issues and encouraging green debates. We've got a £10,000 eco fund pot, which supports student studies related to anything sort of environmentally friendly. And then we've got a little mobile cafe that drives around our 8 campuses and engages students with the Eco project. So I'm just going to talk through a couple of projects that have worked really well for us, and then towards the end I'll mention or give you my reflections on the best and most effective way we've found to engage with sort of hard to reach students. So I'm going to start off with Renu. Renu are a group of artists. They study art and design at one of our sort of smaller campuses, Margaret Street, which has only got about 200 students. Our students here don't tend to engage with the union too much, and it's been something that we've been trying to readdress. So what they do is collect old furniture from skips, from charity shops, or just stuff that people are throwing away, and they upcycle it into sort of nice, new, beautiful furniture that can then be sold. So they're reducing waste, and they're obviously developing their skills. They got some money off the Eco Fund, and they've been using it to, there are 5 of them in total, they've been using it to fund making this furniture. They've also started small workshops as well. So it's one of the unexpected outcomes we had was that they got in touch with Edible Eastside, which is a small urban garden that we work with. And Edible Eastside had this big shed, which was covered with, or had a lot of rubbish in it, and the new guys came along and they cleared it out, and now they're starting upcycling workshops there. So you can just about see in the back between Jane and Doug, the elderly gentleman, there's a big piece of furniture, and they're upcycling that at the moment, and they're using it as a sort of a tool for people to learn skills. And so we've got different students coming along, sanding, people painting, people starting to actually repair that bit of furniture as well. The next project I want to talk about is Bin It to Win It. So this was set up by 2 students, Laddie and Aaron, both master's students. Laddie's from, I think it's from Nigeria, and Aaron's from, well, I think it's from Telford. But they decided that plastic coffee cups being thrown onto the ground at our campus was a big problem. So they wanted to create a way of actually encouraging people to dispose of litter, specifically coffee cups, in a more sustainable way. So they created something called Bin It to Win It. And here are a few picks. So they turned coffee cups into lottery tickets. So if you're going out and you buy a cup of coffee, rather than throwing your coffee cup on the floor, which I'm sure none of us would do anyway, your coffee cup is actually a lottery ticket. And if you return it to a specific bin, you can see it on the right-hand side. That's a prototype they were working with. It gets scanned in, goes to a system, and you get entered into a lottery. So we've got a mobile coffee shop, so a lot of our trade is passing. So people come, buy their drinks, and then they walk away. We have 52% of people return to get rid of their coffee cup ethically, which is quite a high percentage. These guys are exhibiting this Wednesday at a fair called Birmingham Made Me, and they're going to be their sort of main event, and they're looking to take this and actually make it into a viable business. Obviously for coffee shops and other places, it means return trade. It means people are coming back again to their shop and may purchase more items. Hard to reach students. So we've got a lot of Chinese students with us, and a lot of them don't particularly engage in the union. So through our Eco Fund, we had quite a few come forward and set up a Chinese cultural day. So what they wanted to do was educate people on the link between Chinese culture and the natural world. So on the left-hand side, we've got organic dumplings, and there's a workshop on how to make the organic dumplings, and we grew the carrots ourselves. They were really nice. And on the right-hand side, we've just got an example of some of the stands and exhibits that were at the event as well. The event was held at Joseph Chamberlain College, and it had 6 other small sort of nation schools alongside as well. So we had a Sikh school, which is a religion, we had a Chinese school, we had a Sri Lankan school there as well, and a few others, and they're all engaging with each other and hopefully trying to set up new projects all based around the natural world. That was also part of her MA Events final project too. Pot of Tricks. So again, somebody from MA Events, a master's student, who decided that what she wanted to do was create Beatrix Potter-inspired theatre to educate young kids about sustainable farming and healthy eating. So she set this up with a couple of her friends on her course, and they dressed up, you can sort of see them just there, as Beatrix Potter characters, and they worked with kids in local schools, teaching them about what's good to eat, sustainable farming, and how to grow their own vegetables, which was awesome. Again, part of the MA Events course, and master students don't tend to engage with us as much as undergrads at the union, so that was really nice to get them involved. The Eco Garden. I want to apologise now for not having any pictures, but the Eco Garden is our on-site growing area, and what we did was work with landscape architecture students, and we worked with our School of Health students to create 2 modules within landscape architecture that encouraged all the students to think about environmentalism when designing a small space, and to think about well-being in it too. So they were focusing more on how to create a foraging site and how to increase biodiversity in the area, as much as just the aesthetics of the place and what it actually looked like. And the School of Health students talked to them about, well, actually students would quite like somewhere to sit down, or why don't you have a place where people can actually do some yoga. The foraging site was their idea too. And that was great. So it was a guy called Russell Good and a lady called Jennifer Robbard who worked on that, who were the leads, and they're two separate academics. How did we do it? It was a lot of talking, getting the right links with people on the right courses. Obviously cherry picking courses that we knew would want to work with us. So landscape architecture was an obvious one to pick. A flexibility on both sides, so both parties really wanting to work with each other, and both were willing to be slightly flexible with certain things to make this happen. Opportune timing, so got in just before they finished writing the modules for the next year, and obviously there are positive outcomes for both parties. So we get a grow site built with some landscape architecture students. The School of Health get a nice place, a nice garden to practice well-being outside, and yeah, And obviously landscape architecture students get to develop the key hands-on skills that they may need in the future. This is a picture of our cafe. So it's a little tiny electric cafe that's all gas powered. And this is just outside our Students' Union. This is during Welcome Week. And we're using it as an engagement tool. So again, we've got 8 campuses, so this drives around to most of them. And people come along, buy coffee, and then learn about the project as well. So it's a volunteering hub as much as a coffee shop. We get people, they speak to us, we tell them what's happening, and we end up doing fun things like this. So we've got 5 students here. They're all MA business students. They're all from Malaysia, and they all came along to garden with us. So in the top left, we've got 4 allotments there as part of Roots and Renewal, and we've got our 5 students just doing a bit of volunteering. We've got a beehive in the top left-hand corner. It was a Portuguese lesson, so you can see in the bottom left-hand corner, there was an actual interactive Portuguese role play afterwards. And whilst we were gardening and whilst we were learning, everything was said in Portuguese. So it was a way of getting people to learn a new skill through being outdoors and doing a practical activity. In the bottom right, you can see we're connected with Aston Villa through the project, and they kindly put on a nice sort of buffet lunch for us using some of the produce we actually picked and we actually harvested that day. In conclusion, it's good to talk. The most successful projects we've had and the ones that have really worked have come through me and my staff and my team going out and actually talking to students and actually getting them involved in that sense. We had a lot of students from the School of Art work with us, and that was because we went to lectures and we went to their workshops and we went to the isolated campus that it is and actually took time and a bit of effort to actually chat to them. The same with the MA event students and the same with international students as well. I think having a cafe on campus and a little pub means that we've got this nice little focal point where we can actually chat to people who just like a good hot drink and get them involved in the project. That's me done. I think we're going to be having questions at the end, so I think I'm going to introduce Adam and Michael from Bradford Students' Union.
Hey, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Oh, sorry, Michael, I said that, but now we can't hear you.
Hello?
There we go, I can hear you if you do that.
Hear me? Okay, all right, yeah. Michael is supposed to be here, but there's been a dramatic emergency. The microwave's broken, so he's had to take the microwave from here to the international cookery competition. So hopefully he'll be back soon. But yeah, I'm Adam. We're at Bradford. We do Cycling for All, which basically is does cycling and sustainability. We sort of engage disabled students with sustainability, initially using cycling as a way in.
Sorry, Adam, the connection's,
Oh?
the phone doesn't seem to, I can hear you now.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know whether anything's changing, but keep going.
Hello? How's that?
That's good.
Yeah, okay. I think it was on speakerphone. Okay, so I'll start again. Yeah. So we're Cycling for All in Bradford, and we engage disabled students with a whole range of activities within the Students' Union. The whole concept of Cycling for All is to improve the pro-environmental attitudes and behaviours of disabled students through participation in active travel, cycling, sport, and through other green initiatives that come from the students themselves. So it's quite tricky, and this is basically a rundown on how to engage with disabled students based upon us fumbling through over the last 3 years and finding good things and bad things. So last year it was quite good. We got the funding from the Green Fund, which enabled us to really take off with the project. So compared to the previous year, let me just work this out. So we've got some stats there last year. So we engaged with 987 disabled and non-disabled students. Last year, through the activities that we did, 376 was through cycling. We take the students away on a Wednesday afternoon where they can ride through Lister Park, which is a beautiful park in Bradford, on a whole range of bikes, so there's a bike for everyone. We also do a lot more broader engagement, so we go out into the community and we work with schools. We engage over 5,200 people, majority of them last summer. It was absolutely fantastic, but it is difficult to engage with disabled students. Now, disabled students are a significant proportion. 10% of the student body, with a 7% demographic at Bradford, I think that's mirrored across the country, and this percentage is increasing every year. However, they don't have an equivalent student experience as non-disabled students. They're often underrepresented in sport clubs, societies, and things like this, and they generally have low engagement. You can really see this if you just go around campus, because disability doesn't discriminate. There's people from all ages, ethnicities, backgrounds, on all courses. So there's no sort of thing that brings them together other than the fact that they've got a disability. So, and this has been quite studied a lot. Yeah. And here's a thing from 2010. Marginalisation and inequality exists for disabled students. And we've really seen this. Now, in Bradford, there are many reasons. Disability services itself has been fragmented, and a lot of the provision has been contracted out to other providers. So if a student needs academic support in a lecture, then this comes from a company that's based in Sheffield, does all their business on the telephone. Student needs assessment is done by different companies around the place. And exams cater for disabled students, but there's not much communication between all the different departments. And this creates a lack of sort of a central hub for disabled students, particularly with regard to social issues and just hanging out and making friends and that kind of thing. It can be quite difficult. Additionally, there are accessibility issues. We really see this we've got a lift that breaks every week, and it's a big barrier for a lot of students because they can't get around the campus easily. And also there are fears, and there is a lack of understanding of disability amongst the general student body and some of the staff, unfortunately. But yeah, the disabled students themselves, it is a challenge to engage with them. But we do find that you just need to get in there and just chat to the individual. It's like Harry said, just get there and talk. And I've said some of these already. But yet, also, a lot of students don't think they can participate. So, for example, with our cycling, we get a few people that have been in wheelchairs their whole lives, and they don't think they can ride a bike. But when they come with us on a Wednesday and they get on the bike and ride around, they have a great time, and it just creates a new thing for them, a new social outlet and a new physical outlet. Other challenges are equipment. Now, we really found this in the sports hall 3 years ago when we set it up. For disabled individuals, that they do need specialist equipment, and it just wasn't there at the time. Also, people with things like Asperger's, they struggled because there wasn't training there within staff or gym members or other students into how to deal with them. So this is something we've been addressing. So what works? One-to-one, it's the best thing. You make friends with somebody, you invite them along, and you get them to come. By giving students ownership of a project, that really sort of engages with them a lot, by sort of them taking the lead and coming up with the ideas and generating the ideas, they really get enthused by it. And I love this next bit. To get someone engaged, you've got to tell them about the benefits. So if you come cycling with us, you'll get fit, you lose weight, you get to ride around the park. To keep them engaged, you've got to demonstrate the benefits. So the third time they come, they get round without stopping or pushing or anything like that. And it's a real good confidence boost that these students get. It's something that they can be proud about. Keep stats so that you know what's going on and you can advertise what you're doing to the university, to the students themselves. And it's good to make links with other departments. So we link with disability services quite well. And through them, they're now starting to refer students to us. We link with counselling and marketing, and it's great. And never say no to anyone. If anyone wants to come and do a session, get them along. But most importantly, make it fun, which is what we always try to do. So we've got a few pictures of some of the things we've done here. So we did a bike ride at Bradford City Football Club, where we just rode around the stadium. That was great fun. We did an event where we raced a steam train, which was incredibly fun. We do regular cycling sessions. We invite people from all over the place. And the picture on the bottom left is a guy who's going to do Land's End to John O'Groats he's wheelchair bound, and he can't use his hands. So, you know, it's great. You know, we're building a bike for him, and he's part of the process of now being there to build the bike and as a consultant. So we're working on getting some sort of steering mechanism for his head. So if he moves his head, he can steer it, and moves his head in a different way, the bike will brake and all this kind of stuff. So, you know, it is fun to be involved in that. So what works in terms of engagement? Try everything. You know, that's my advice. If someone comes to you with an idea, go for it, yeah, and think big. Don't just do something small because you're afraid of failing. You've got to fail to know how it works. So for us, we're trying to do a Guinness World Record on a hand cycle in a few weeks. We don't know if it'll work or not, but you know, let's go for it. And the thing is, start before Freshers' Fair, because the disabled students they get a period before Freshers' Fair where they get inducted. So you get a week before Freshers, where students that are more vulnerable or may have issues integrating with the general student body, they come and they get inducted, and it's a great way to do it. It's a really great way to sort of get to the students first and sort of really push that engagement, because when you go past October, November, it's hard to engage with new students. And then tell everyone about what you're doing. Get in the newspapers, you know, particularly if you're working with disabled students, it can be a great good news story for the university and the student union and everyone involved. So just get out there and shout about it. And a really good thing is involving the community, because if you do that and you're working with disabled students, it opens up a whole pot of funding that just wasn't there before. So you've got like the university working with the local authority, working with a local charity. It's a multi-agency approach that really works. And one thing that we found that worked a lot was to get non-disabled students involved, get them running things, get them to see what we're doing. So we've got non-disabled students helping with the garden. The gardeners are developing the site at the moment, and they're making the whole thing wheelchair accessible. And this is because of the non-disabled students wanting it to be disabled access. And a lot of disabled students, you know, 10% of the student body is disabled. These non-disabled students have got disabled friends. And they say, hey, why don't you go cycling with these guys, or why don't you do some gardening? And it's brilliant. And one thing that this Green Fund project has really enabled us to do is have our little space in the student union. And now we've got disabled students coming down and hanging out with us and chilling and doing some work. And that has never existed before. So the benefits to engagement to the students involved are definitely improved self-esteem. We've seen that quite a lot. We've had a few graduates, disabled graduates, come back who've been unable to find work. And they've basically, it's really boosted their self-esteem, you know, that they're now confident, looking for work and getting out there, whereas before they were a bit more lethargic and a bit intimidated by the job market. It increases social networks to students and makes them improves their physical well-being, which is another hot topic at the moment. And it's an entry point to other engagement with other activities. So you could be get somebody in cycling, but really they're interested in film production. So you know the people that do film production, and you can signpost them in that way. And make sure the project is student-led. That is really good. You know, that keeps the students engaged. And benefits for the university are an improved student satisfaction score for disabled students. And if you've got a student that's at risk of social isolation, at risk of dropping out of their course, and they're getting referred to you by counselling or by disability services, then you're going to improve retention. That student's got less likely to drop out of the university. So I think this brings me to the end. I'm not sure. So disabled student engagement is a challenge, but it's incredibly rewarding, and you can have a brilliant impact on someone's life. You can really help improve them, and it's a really good feeling. And I think that's it from me. So cheers, guys. Hope you could hear me okay.
Thanks very much, Adam. I'm now speaking on behalf of Christina from Wigan and Leigh College. So apologies if there are any questions I can't field, but hopefully I will be able to. The Wigan and Leigh College Students' Union project is based on a vision of a successful student union with sustainability embedded within its core purpose. When they applied to the Students Green Fund, they were quite upfront about the fact that their student union hadn't been hugely effective in the past. It hadn't had the support it needed, and the students weren't hugely engaged, and certainly weren't doing anything really on sustainability at that point in time. So they were really starting from scratch. And I'll just move the slide on one second. Yeah, so the college has a population of roughly 10,000 full and part-time students across 5 buildings across the towns of Wigan and Leigh, so it's a split campus. And the college broadly serves some of the most disadvantaged members of the local community. So according to Ofsted, in 2010, I think it was, some 55% of wards in Wigan fall within the 20% most deprived wards in England. And up until last year, there had been no one employed to work on learner voice, and the student union had been seen really as a sort of funding for trips, but not really about channeling student voice in its true sense, and certainly no work done on sustainability. And it was reported by staff that there was kind of a lack of energy amongst the student body and to do with the student union, and a sense of resignation about what the future might hold. So this is something that Wigan and Leigh College FU passionately wanted to change, and they wanted to rebuild a vibrant student community that can feel excited about what they can achieve and look towards the future. And the Smart Green scheme, as they called their project, aims to support students in doing this, but also handing back power to the students, and making sure that learner voice is really embedded in what the college is all about. We're very excited about this. It's really exciting to see students really empowered and moving forward with their own ideas and feeling that they really can make some change within the college, and that, you know, getting them all trained up in all the sorts of knowledge and skills about sustainability that they can then embed within their college. An essential aim of their project is to develop for staff, students and the wider community a sense of understanding about the key facets of sustainability. So the three prongs: environmental, economic and social. I don't know if we've got anybody else present from college backgrounds, anyone who's working in a college, but at Wigan and Leigh, students tend to just visit their campus to attend their courses rather than attending any extracurricular activities. So clubs and societies were really out of the picture, really. There wasn't anything kind of extracurricular that was running through the FU or otherwise. And obviously in a university setting, people are used to that extracurricular activity happening, and that tends to be the way that people are engaged on sustainability volunteering, through allotments, etc. But it's meant that to actually engage their student body, it has to be a bit of a rethink about how they can engage them. It's not necessarily through your traditional outlets of clubs, societies, volunteering. And as a result, the programme activity has been designed around driving engagement with sustainability through the curriculum, which has also fed into learner voice work really well in the last year. So a key focus of the key aims of the project are to develop an active student union with a strong learner voice across all of the college locations. So that was really key to actually having a mobilised student body. As I said, to develop an understanding of the facets of sustainability amongst staff, students and the wider community. To encourage student entrepreneurship through sustainability, which leads into their Green Dragon's Den, which I'll talk about in a moment. To promote a sustainable college community, and to further develop and promote links with the local and global community through the curriculum and the Students' Union. So it was very important that they did tap into local links, given that all of their students pretty much are local. So they're already got a base of people who have a stake in their local community, and it was really important to them to make sure that they were involving local charities as well. And they set down, from the word go, 6 key principles of their student union, what they were hoping to promote. And I think this was really useful because when they were talking to students about sustainability and what it meant, it wasn't always entirely obvious, and it's not when we're talking to people generally what we mean by sustainability project. So they came up with these 6 key principles. So the first was minimising impact, human impact. So if we minimise the impact that we have upon the environment as individuals, we're ensuring the sustainability of not just our resources, but also of the communities that rely on those resources, both locally and on a global level. The second was enabling people. So this was really important at Wigan and Leigh, that students were given the opportunity to become actively involved in sustainability projects and become empowered to influence those changes in the wider community. Ensuring fairness, so sharing knowledge, skills and resources to help communities work together to something that benefits all the members of the community. Reducing waste, obviously kind of speaks for itself. Promoting happiness and positive well-being was a really nice one that they wanted to get across. So as representation through the SU is growing, the student voice will have an increasingly widespread influence. And they felt that when their students felt empowered to voice those opinions, it would promote a culture of happiness and well-being within their student community, which was very important to them. And social responsibility was the final one, so encouraging all members of the student community to be socially responsible, working on projects that would be mutually beneficial for the student community. I think it was a really nice way of really summing up what they meant through their project, which almost wasn't obvious when they were just chatting to students about their project to begin with. There were certainly some preconceptions about what sustainability meant and whether it was for them, and it was a very useful way of kind of spelling out what it was that they were hoping to achieve. So as I mentioned, one of the key things that they knew it already, but through their initial work, they found that more and more they wouldn't have to work through the curriculum and through academics within the college, rather than necessarily doing things that were completely extracurricular, because the students would come for their courses, have often jobs alongside or families alongside, and wouldn't have time to be spending on extracurricular activities. So one of the things that they've done really well is to work with community partners. So one of the first things that they did as a student union was the organisation of an incredibly successful food waste awareness event. So they worked through the hospitality and catering students in the college, and with partners Fair Share, to come up with a load of perfectly edible food, which would have otherwise gone to waste. And they provided free meals and smoothies to students and staff on campus, to about 400 people on the day. And the meal was basically about raising awareness of the amount of perfectly edible food which is wasted across the country, whilst 4 million people are affected by food poverty. So it was a great kind of first event, working with local partners and through one of the curriculum areas to put on a really successful event. And another community event they also put on more recently was a collaboration with the Pocket Park even in the Northern Quarter in Manchester, with the fine art and graphics students. They created a mural for the Pocket Park on reclaimed urban space in the city centre, and it's really rejuvenated this Pocket Park in the centre of Manchester. It's worth a visit if you are ever in Manchester, going to have a look. And the students obviously were involved through their course. It was their area of expertise, and it meant that they were really engaged in the project and came up with a fantastic result. As I've mentioned, the students, and certainly the team picked this up pretty early on, that the students tend to have a linear relationship with the college, so only visiting the campus to attend their courses. And as a result, they've had to design it around the curriculum areas. So last academic year, they hosted their first Green Dragon's Den event, which was across a period of time. People were planning what they might propose to the Green Dragon's Den, you know the way these things work. But it was basically about making sure that they made links with the curriculum areas and vocational areas within the college. So students submitted enterprising project proposals with the support of staff from an associated curriculum area. So in nearly every case, it was a partnership between staff and students. They held a sustainability training day for all of those who were interested, so staff and students. And I went along to the day actually when they had all of the interesting parties along, and they had a full day's training on sustainability to help work up their project proposals. And they had a whole range of vocational courses represented in the room, from media to floristry, design, beauty therapy. So all sorts of different curriculum areas were being represented. And actually, the one that wasn't a partnership, there was only students, was media, and they've actually gone on to put together a great project all about the issue of food waste. But in reality, I think after the project proposals were submitted and approved, the majority of the projects have been really driven forward by staff, with perhaps more the support of the students involved. And I think in an FE setting, I think that's completely understandable, but it's still giving students the chance to have a stake in that project and to be involved in shaping it from day one. So although the majority of things since then have been driven forward by the staff, it is always in partnership with the students who came up with the idea. But I know that they would really like to see some kind of purely student-led projects driven forward. I know they've got one or two from the Dragon's Den from last year, but this year it's something they would love to see as students really taking the helm, because it has been much more a partnership with the leadership of the practical stuff organised by the staff members. They've also trained up academic staff on ESD in the recent staff training day. So staff have been prepped on this, and they also have the chance to put forward ideas about how they can embed sustainable development within their curriculum area, and they've all had this training about how to go about it at a workshop on ESD specifically for their college. So I think the lessons that Christina would have said if she was here was certainly about making sure that within the FE setting and making use of the curriculum areas rather than relying on extracurricular. For the student officers, those elected officers, they have been fantastic, and it's amazing to see the change from where they were last year to where they are now. They're so engaged and fantastic advocates about sustainability in their campus. But the main lesson within the FE setting is to make use of the curriculum areas rather than asking students outside of their classes to do extra bits and pieces that they just don't have the time to do. I think we're now moving on to questions and good examples. I think just from the last one from Christina, I think her question would be about whether there are any other colleges present who might have had a similar experience and have needed to make use of curriculum areas to engage students. But any questions from those present, or any other good examples of driving forward student engagement, or what works on your campus? Any questions at all? Harry, I know you areas through your project. Would you find your experiences similar to Christina? That's been a really positive way of engaging students? Harry, are you there? Oh, hi, sorry, Harry didn't hear me properly. I just said, Harry, I know that you've made links with your project to a number of different curriculum areas. And obviously Christina's feedback is really that the curriculum areas that Wigan and Lee is essential to tap into, because otherwise you just won't engage students in the same way. Did you find it particularly useful to tap into particular curriculum areas?
Yeah, I did. I think it helps with retention a lot, as much as engagement. So we've got a lot of students coming to us with a lot of good ideas. but having a group of students then follow through and make that idea a reality can be quite difficult. And having the support of an academic or somebody on your course related to the university actually does help with keeping students working on that project. And it really does help with retention more than it does engagement. So we had some really good stuff, like I said, with landscape architecture, and the majority of the examples I gave were students working on their own sort of coursework with guidance from academics. Not to say that student projects on their own don't work, because they do, but it does help to have sort of an academic influence too.
Well, yeah, I think an example from Wigan that worked really well was the beauty therapy department. They came to the training day to learn more about sustainability, and they had this idea that they could be the greenest beauty therapy department in the country. So the students have all been researching about where their products are coming from, looking at kind of organic alternatives, and all sorts of different things about the way that their salons are being run. So it's a really nice example of students who really probably wouldn't have been engaging on sustainability otherwise in their course, who have been through this project. And yeah, it's just been a really interesting way of tapping into a new subject area. Any other questions at all from the room? Or good examples? Any other examples of where you've had success in driving student engagement and reaching students who you may not have otherwise done through your activities? Particularly if there's anyone from SUs who have struggled with engaging particular students and have through sustainability work. I think some of the work around engaging international students has been particularly successful through some of our sustainability work. And that's across Green Impact as well. Excellence projects have reached out to international students in particular. Still quiet. I know Emma is having an issue getting back into her computer. I think it's locked itself. So if there were any messages that were sent directly to Emma, it might be worth sending it to me, so I can answer them. Ooh, well, it's very quiet, so unless there are any other questions, I mean, I'm sure myself and Adam and Harry can stay around for any other questions that you wanted to ask at all. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us today. I hope it's been useful. There's all sorts of different case studies I know out there of amazing work driving student engagement, and obviously today's we kind of focus particularly around reaching hard to reach groups within the student audience. So you know, I'm sure there's masses of good practice out there, so do share, because it would be lovely to hear from anybody else out there who's working on these sorts of issues. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us, and I will speak to you soon.
Thank you, Emily. I have to apologise.
Hi, Emma.
Massive technical difficulties there. My computer locked me out and I couldn't get back in, but I could hear the webinar. Brilliant. Again, thank you very much, everybody, and our speakers involved today. Sorry I wasn't able to facilitate the questions there. If anyone does have any questions or has a little bit of a light bulb moment later on, just drop myself an email and I'll be a bit of a messenger and make sure the question and the answer gets across. Again, brilliant. Thank you, Emily, for covering my back then, and thank you, everyone, for being involved today. And hopefully see you all in the next webinar.